I was perusing the internet the
Oh,
other day,
Keep it clean, Tom.
and this just shows the sad age I am at, because it wasn't the usual, as you're kind of no doubt insinuating, but I was looking at New Dice Please merch, and I came across this way of doing what they call bleach printing.
Bleach printing.
Yeah,
isn't that what the Americans do to chickens before they send them across?
yeah. So you basically get like a coloured shirt of some kind, not white, obviously. You get and this is where the 3D printer can come in. So you can 3D print an image, so it's like a raised image, and that's your print board. You get your T-shirt or whatever that you're wanting to put the image on like put like a piece of card or something in it, so it's flat. Then you spray that 3D image with bleach, and then you just layer it on. Put your hands down on it, count to 10 seconds, lift it off, and then use a hairdryer, and it will put the image on it. It will literally kind of do that exact image onto the thing without any inks or anything like that.
So you just bleach the colour out in the shape of your logo?
Yeah. Which I thought was quite quick and dirty. There was a chap on this thing who does 3D printing, and he was going off to a show, and he wanted to have a whole load of giveaway merch. And then it came up, and he was doing this. So just thought maybe something to try.
Give that a go.
If we are obviously, I think we need to be mindful of our audience, Tom, in terms of, are we targeting the, high rollers, or shall we say the less than high rollers, or roll up, have this T-shirt that smells of domestos. Good luck, everybody.
No, I'd use the cheap stuff. It wouldn't smell of anything.
That's fair enough. We'll have to with each T-shirt you get a free cost sheet.
Well, the best thing is that if they don't wash it before they wear it, they'll get a free tattoo on their chest as well.
Tell you what, you could charge a load for that.
I saw something the other day about it was it called like cold branding or something like that?
Yeah, I saw that. They look horrific.
It looks horrendous, doesn't it? Where you like rather than like branding someone with like a hot mark or something, it's like a freezing, like, yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like. It looked absolutely like, why did somebody looked at branding cows and thought, I need to find a way to be able to brand humans in a way that doesn't sound like some kind of war crime? And they went for, let's just make it cold instead. Why get... I don't know.
There are too many people in this world with too much time on their hands, Chris, obviously, and they need to pick up some dice and roll them.
That's true. I mean, what a sentiment. Absolutely. Should we
go for it. Sorry.
I mean, I'm just guessing you were about to say they need to be shot.
No, I was going to say roll the intro, but you beat me to it, so roll the intro.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to New Dice Please, the bite-sized Blood Bowl podcast brought to you by the people at Blood Bowl Live. My name is Chris. Joining me this week, as always, Mr. Scott Bryant. Scott, what is your pub snack of choice?
Pub snack of choice, pork scratchings.
See, it is a good go-to. It is a good go-to. Joining us also, Mr. Tom Hovell. Tom, pub snack of choice?
Well, Scott took my number one, but
we can be in the same boat together. Sharing a bag of scratchings.
For once, we could all agree.
I think pork scratchings is the best one. Yeah, 100%.
I thought you was going to say olives.
Charcuterie board.
Yes. The man of the people, Tom.
I would also go pork scratchings. If I've got the dog, I will go for some bacon fries and then I'll share them. But normally I'll go for a pork scratching.
What
But we're
would,
not here to talk
I know
about
Mr.
Spray Scott.
Feeks. I know Mr. Feeks is absent, but in his stead, what do you think Mr. Feeks would go for, Chris?
Ooh. I wonder whether he would also go for a pork scratching, but I can also see him just going for a packet of ready salted, you know.
Moving on.
Well, okay.
We're not here to talk about pub stacks, no. Instead, we are going to play a game we haven't played in a while. It's one of our favorite games. It is League Friendly Stomp. We're going to go through 3 teams and we're going to choose which one we would take for a league season. Which one are we going to just have a little bit of fun with in friendly or a tournament, and which one is going under the bottom of our boot, stomped into oblivion. Scott and Tom do not know which teams I am going to give them today, as always. And I was trying to think of a theme. I normally try and make sure there's a theme for these. So in the past, we've done like the kind of conglomeration crew. I think the first one we did was the current bottom of the NAF, and we've done kind of similar styles. And the theme started with, I thought, you know what, I'll just have a look at the NAF report for March and I will pick the top 3 teams. And then purely by accident, I'm going to call this the Tom Hovell selection, because the top 3 teams and the teams that you will be choosing for this week are Necromantic Horror, Orcs, and Vampires. And to be clear, these are the top 3 teams based on the number of games in tournaments played. So just to give you those stats, Necromantic Horror 878, Orcs 753, and Vampires 701.
So not win rate,
not
nothing
win
else,
rate.
not win rate. No,
No,
okay.
not win rate. This is on number of games played with those 3, which just so happen to be 3 teams that I know Mr. Hovell knows incredibly well, and has played before in tournaments or league seasons. So it'll be interesting, particularly to see what Tom thinks. To give you both a little bit of thinking time, I will put my cards on the table, and I honestly am finding this one the most difficult of all 3 that we've done. I'm genuinely not sure, because I had an opinion of where I was going to put Orcs, and then I had a look at what Orcs actually look like in the book, and then I suddenly thought, oh, you know what, they're not that bad. And then I thought, well, where am I going to put Necro? And I think I'll start by saying Necro probably would be my league team. And I think that's not maybe what I should go for, because all sense is telling me Orcs should be my league team, based on kind of how much the teams are, what skills you get inbuilt, the kind of range of play that you've got with the throw teammate option, and all this sorts of stuff. Everything is telling me that Orcs should be my league team, but for some reason, and I don't really know why, I find them really uninteresting, and I'm putting Necromantic Horror for league.
Are you not worried about the price? Because Necro are relatively expensive, you know, and by the time you get to the sort of level you're comfortable with all core players skilled up, or to a manageable level, I think it's about 1.4, 1.5 mil.
Yeah, they are expensive. The positionals are all very expensive. You don't get lots of either positionals, so the chance of you losing them and having to replace them, being able to build a good team, and also like you need to get wins under your belt quickly. You need to keep the fans up so that you can get the treasury back. You need to basically be sat on a decent side treasury. I think they're probably a couple of season build. Realistically, you probably want them for 2 seasons, if not more, mainly to kind of build up the treasury for the next season. Even if you kind of earn enough in season 1 that you took 1.3 mil into season 2, you could just start again, but with a bigger treasury, with, you know, if you didn't get the right skills. So yeah, it does worry me, but I think the way I'm looking at it is, it's what team would I happily play for a long time? What team do I want to play for a day and then put down? And what team do I not want to play at all? So I think in that perspective, Necromantic are the team that I would probably be most happy. I think they're fun without frustration, maybe compared to the other ones in the list. So I think I'd be more inclined to play them for a longer period of time. What are you thinking, Scott? Because I don't think you've had a game with vampires, haven't you? But otherwise, I don't think you've really touched any of these teams.
True. Although I do like the sculpts on Necro, and I do like I think the sculpts on vampires are good. I've played vampires, and to quote the man, the myth, the legend, that is John Reeder. Good evening, John, if you're listening. Safe driving home as always. Be careful out there. When you play vampires, there's almost because they have the bloodlust mechanic and the thralls. They're very different from any of the other teams out there, and they almost leave you with that itch you need to scratch. So I actually think they will be a team I will be going to in the future. Can't say when, can't say where, but I think there will be sometime in the future. Necro, I just like the look of. They're so cool and balanced, and they start from a relatively good place. They give you several options. Are you going to go ghouls versus wolves? How are you going to build it or not, as the case may be? And they come with some very, very good core skills. You're talking your frenzy, you've got your dodge piece in there, you've got your piece in terms of your fend, and you can control the sides pretty well with your dirty bed sheets or with your flesh columns. So they're really, really good in terms of that pitch control side of it as well. Orcs are just like the fun of it in terms of if you just want to go up, punch something in the face, live that dream. If you like brutality and just carnage and violence, then they're the team for you. So this is one I don't want to think about it for too long, because I'm feeling that if I think about it, I might overthink it, and that's a very dangerous thing
See,
to
this
get
is what
down
I
in.
think I'm
Yeah,
doing already.
and this is So for me, I'm going to go with my initial reaction, what I would do. This is my shout out. For tournament or friendly, I'd go with Necro. For Orcs, I'd go with Stomp, and Vampires, I'd go with League.
So Tom, you've played all three of these teams more than either me or Scott.
Yeah.
Where are you putting Necro? So I've got them in a league. Scott's got them in a tournament or in a friendly. Where are you going with Necro? Because you have been tempted by Necro in the league, but not done it. You've done Necro in tournaments a number of times. Where's your head at the minute?
Yeah, so I've literally been swapping all three of them around on my little notepad here while you've been talking, because like you say, they are so different. All three teams are completely different. The way you play them, equally in what setting, are they good, where they're bad, and all that kind of stuff. So with Necromantic Horror, I've put them as friendly tournament. And the reason I've put them there is, yes, I've used them in tournaments myself. I've only ever actually played them in tournaments. They're really good fun because, as you've quite rightly mentioned there, Chris, it does take a while to get them up to the skill level. It does also mean that if you play in League, you don't get a full set. So you have to, only have either one golem, flesh golem, or one werewolf. So you're almost at the mercy of your opposition. So, for example, if you say, okay, well, I'm going to go like the agile style of Necro, so I'm going to have ghouls, I'm going to have werewolves, and then I'm going to build up and get my flesh golems later, and then you suddenly come across a whole load of Norse or dwarfs in a league, then you're really going to suffer. Equally, the same would apply if you've got a whole load of elves and stuff, and you've gone the more bashy side of Necro. So that's where I'm at with them. You're definitely, for League, my personal thing is they are definitely at least a 2-season team. You need to redraft them on that side of things. Hence why I've got no patience. I just want all the nice stuff now. Put them in a friendly. Okay.
So then, okay, what then? Scott, we'll go back to you then. You've gone vampires for your league build.
Yep.
Out of these three. What is it about vampires? Is it, I mean, we've seen some very successful vampire teams in our league do very well. We know that they can be very hit and miss. What is it about the vampires that is making you think you would tolerate them for a season? Because to me, I'm looking at them and I'm seeing more frustration potential than I am kind of enjoyment?
That's a very good question. When I look at vampires, the mechanic appeals to me. They are different. I'd be prepared to take them for 2 seasons. I think, yes, you can play them as a 1-season team, but I think I play them as a 2-season team, and if I did very well with them, then I might consider that. Do I take them and redraft them or not? Yeah, so that's sort of my thinking behind vampires as well. And if you have a particular couple of bad games or bad run, it's not completely destroying the team. It might do, but we've all had these issues with teams we've redrafted. Certainly, we've had it with even up to Wood Elves, and Skaven especially. So I like an edge team. I like that. I think there's a lot of ways you can take vampires in terms of, are you going slightly more edge or slightly more bashy? So I like them for that. Necro, it's there on a plate as a gimme, and my personal style is more of that edge and dodge and speed, as opposed to cage, walk forward, bash, cage, walk forward, bash, cage, walk forward, bash, etc. I'm
Tom,
not a 2-1 grind fan, although if someone said, do you want a 2-1 grind and win every game of Blood Bowl you ever play, I'm not going to say no.
Tom, I've kind of just assumed that you're putting vampires as a league team, but actually, I'm now doubting that because I know that you've done that before and you've done orcs in the league. And I think your orc season was more successful than your vampire season. And I don't know whether that's going to sway you.
Yeah, my Orcs were the first season I played at Aardvarks and Dragons, and it was all downhill from there after 4 seasons. So this was a difficult one on the basis that, as you quite rightly say, I've played them both in League. I've also played them both in tournament as well. I even won against you at the weekend, Chris.
You did beat me at the weekend with your vampires.
With vampires.
You did.
Well said there.
In 7s only, though. That doesn't count. So I've chosen for vampires Stomp.
What? Good God, man, are you crazy? They'll never know.
Oh,
never seamless.
Seamless.
God, Sorry, just pick up the phone. Yeah, is that Spielberg? Yeah. We got a producer here. He can slice things up well. Anyway, the reason behind that is they are one of those anomalies where they kind of sit outside of both Edge and Bash teams. They've got all the stats that give you some fantastic agility. Edge 2. They've also got a large number of players that are strength 4, and also they're pretty tanky on the armor as well. They've also got that fantastic little gem of a skill, Hypno Gaze, which, if you're playing vampires, it's great just to wind up your opponent with, because you just go along and hypno a number of people. Although it does usually mean that when it fails, your opponent will go like that, and that will screw you up.
Does your opponent have to do it in that particular tone of voice as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cue Tom Feeks at the weekend.
I'm waiting for the point where I'm waiting for the but here, because you said you're stomping on them and you're singing their praises. So where's the but?
As I just mentioned there, it's all down to the roll of the dice. So you got the bloodlust, okay, and you roll ones, and you think, okay, I either have to bite one of my thralls, and continue, or they just end the turn and they are now effectively boneheaded. That's a real annoyance, because that can really just open up the entire game for your opponent. They can just basically, it's almost like a reverse Hypno Gaze. They can just literally walk through. The other thing is, you really have to commit to moving your players. So that also makes it very difficult to kind of cover the entire field. So if you are kind of on the defense, so your opponent has got the ball, they're coming down the field, they can move to one side, and you potentially got to commit a number of players, and you've just got a roll of 1, either on the bloodlust, or if you're trying to do it where you're hypnogazing a couple of corners on a cage, one of them fails, you've now committed not just 3 players, but effectively 6, or maybe 4 at the minimum that you're going to use. So you're going to potentially use two potential vampires to hypnogaze and 1 to go in and take the ball out. You can probably try and position a thrall somewhere around there for that failed bloodlust. So as you can tell, there's a lot of mechanics you have to think about and work out. And if you're playing against something that's got edge, or something like maybe Amazons or the elves or something like that, or even humans, with the catchers, they can just run rings around you. So they can move, and Skaven obviously, and move quite quickly around you. And you've committed too many players down that side of the field. However, I will kind of take my hat off and fall on my sword, because I am not the best vampire player, and we have some fantastic players in our league who have made vampires kind of almost invincible, to the point that they won the league. So well done, John, on that. So that's where I was. It got to the point where, for me also, I want to learn more about how to play the game. And vampires aren't potentially the right team for that, because they are so unique in the way you have to play them.
Yeah, I think there's so much more to think about, because it's not just a regular nega trait. It's a nega trait that you can get round, but you have to have positioned players in the right way in order to kind of make the most of it. You can't, with something like an ogre team where you've got bonehead everywhere, if you fail the bonehead, you can bring a Noblar or something up to kind of, if you're wanting to create a roadblock or anything like that, you can kind of recover after the event, whereas you very much have to think and plan before the event with the vampire team.
So is the thing for you then, Tom, just to summarize then, you said the vampires for you are the anomaly in terms of the way their mechanic is. So for you, because of the bloodlust and the hypnogaze and having to roll those extra dice, for you, is it about the reason vampires wouldn't appeal to you in this instance, because of that like risk management and risk mitigation, about rolling as fewer dice as possible, because you want to minimize the risk of it going a bit pear-shaped and suddenly you're maybe in the wrong sort of place, or you've overcommitted and therefore it leaves you exposed?
Yeah, exactly. You effectively got, say, 4, well, depends on how many vampires you have, but X number of vampires are effectively rat ogres. Like, because you're going to have to take out, because you're not only, your vampires are fantastic in skills and everything like that, but they've got this horrible skill, which is the bloodlust. And as I say, if you commit to one side of the pitch and bloodlust, you've not only having to commit the vampires, but you're having to commit their blood banks effectively as well, the thralls. So you're moving the whole team. You can't, as Chris is quite right, he said, you can't just spread out a whole line of other players down the other side on the hope that they're going to prevent the kind of run through. And equally, those thralls, they're only armor 8 as well. Their movement 6, armor 8, strength 3. Okay, the strength's quite gives them a little bit, but that 8's just a bit too light for my liking. And yeah, and as I say, if you're wanting to kind of get into playing a variety of teams, there are more teams that are familiar with to each other. So for example, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Scott, but you've played elves, you've played different types of elves. You played dark elves at the weekend, you've played woodies during the league, and yes, I'm pretty sure you've got an elven union team as well. I don't know if have you played them yet?
No, I have to admit, I haven't.
But you know how they play, and and correct me if I'm wrong, they're kind of similar, aren't they? Because you've got all the edge, so you know how to use edge to your best advantage. Whereas vampires, although they've got the edge, you've got this skip thing as well. So, kind of question to you: if you had your woodies, but you had to roll for bloodlust, would you have taken them for league?
then they'd be fragile vampires.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a different thing. But
Fair point.
yeah, the reason what's your thoughts, Chris? Because vampires, because they are different, and as Tom describes them, that anomaly, that's why they appeal to me.
I don't know. I was really torn. I've torn with all three of these, but particularly the vampires and the orcs, because you have to an extent you've got a trait on both sides. Although the trait is the animosity that you get with the orcs, and that's not anywhere near as bad. But I think all logic in my head says that I should choose the orcs as my league team, and I haven't, because I just don't think they're fun enough. And all logic is then telling me that based on that analysis, I should choose vampires as my tournament/friendly team, because there is a bit of a challenge. They are quite fun. They're a bit different. When they work, they can be incredible. Skill packs can be very generous for them. You know, I don't think there's many teams where you would consider pro as the first skill, but I think vampires at a tournament, having a potential reroll on every single bloodlust that you roll by giving them pro, makes them incredibly tempting. So so all logic is telling me that I should pick vampires for a league, for a friendly or a tournament, but I think I'm going to stomp on them. I think I don't want the. I think you have to think too many steps ahead, and I think it means that if you as a coach are having an off day, there's so little forgiveness in them, maybe compared to another team. And for maybe not so much for tournaments, but for friendlies, sometimes I will go to wanting to play a friendly with someone if I feel like I'm having a bit of an off day. So I want a team that is either going to be fun in their failure, or a bit like ogres, which are quite fun in the way that they can fail. You've got the shenanigans with the throw teammates and all of that give them something much more fun to them. I don't know if failing with vampires would be fun. And I don't think that if I'm having an off day and I just want to play a game of Bloodbowl and I want to play a friendly game, I think I'm more likely to go with orcs, because you've got the strength you've got the armor across the board, you've got block where you need it, you've got pass and sure hands where you need it, you've got a throw teammate option in there as well, you've got a few different kind of ways you can build the team. Yes, you've got the animosity, but I think I would have more fun playing them, even though they're not quirky and don't have that little interesting edge to them like the vampires do. I think vampires are way more interesting, but something is telling me that I would get too frustrated.
Yeah, the one funny thing I want to say about vampires is it's almost like American football. You need to have a whole load of set plays up in your head or written down that you know, so that you like, okay, that failed, so I now need to go to this one. Almost like Ferrari in Formula One, you need a plan E, that kind of thing, where you're like, okay, what happens when I'm 3 turns in and all my vampires are bloodlusted, and they're all just wandering around, and I've just basically decimated my own team, and I've only got my vampires left on the table. So
the other thing I would say in defense of vampires, they're the only team who you can do an impression of the Count from Sesame Street with and get away with it. You want fun. What more fun is that when you can count your dice at 1d6, etc.
As you throw your thralls into the knockout bin. Yeah.
So Scott, then, because me and Tom are both we're both, by the sounds of it, got identical lineups here. What is it that you're not liking about orcs? Because I know that you as a coach have historically played very agile teams.
Yep.
Is it that they're just not quick enough? Because actually, when you look at the skills that they've got, they swap. Yeah, they swap out a some gutter runners for a throw teammate option.
Mhm.
But otherwise, you've got blitzers, which you've got more blitzers than you have in the Skaven team. You've got throwers that have pass and sure hands, exactly like the Skaven do, except the passing stat is worse. What is putting you off Orcs?
I don't want to incur the wrath of all green skin fans everywhere, but if against the other two teams, I find Necro and Vampires more interesting than
I
Orcs.
can't argue with that.
Yes.
I find Necro interesting as because again, if you're going to a tournament, they've got everything, even from like foul appearance through to sidestep. They've got it all in there, which gives them such an incredible start in place as well. I know what people say about vampires. Should they be tier 1 or tier 2? That's a conversation that'll go on at the moment. But in terms of Orcs, I think for me, they feel a bit too vanilla, and they feel a bit too. Yeah, I don't see anything more. That I'm sure they are exciting, and you could build a team, and you can really, focus on key people. And if you look at some of the players that Harrison in our league, evening or afternoon or wherever you are in the world, Harrison, the sort of team and the skill sets he's developed are really interesting and can be quite terrifying when you see some of his blitzers and the skills and the tool set that he's given them as well. You get mighty blow on a few of them as well, especially across your big uns, and they can put other teams to the physical sword, so then it doesn't really matter if it's a 2-1 grind or 1-0 or 2-0. But yeah, for me, it's maybe I'm addicted to that instant, that hit. I just enjoy a bit more movement, a bit more flexibility, as I see it as well. But it's not saying I wouldn't consider playing Orcs, but of those three, they would be the least favourite that I would pick off the shelf.
So, Tom, what do we need to know about Orcs? Because you've had a season with them, you've played sort of tournaments with them, considered tournaments with them. Like, are we? Because even I'm admitting that even though I'm choosing them as my tournament or my friendly team, I'm not doing it because they're interesting. I'm doing it because the other option is going to annoy me too much. So, are we missing something here? Is there something a bit more interesting about them that we're kind of not recognizing, or are they good because they are simple and uninteresting?
They are that safe pair of hands. So the big thing I've learned playing Blood Bowl is that if you don't know how to play it that particularly well, and evidently to my scoring, I don't. But the worst thing about playing Blood Bowl is having your players being removed from the pitch. So if you're a newcomer to the game, just them being knocked down with most of them armor 10, apart from the thrower, which I'll talk about the thrower in a second because he frustrates me. It is quite a bit of okay. They knocked me over. I'll just get up, and then I can move. I can basically move 2 or 1 if I've got the big uns or a thrower or Lionels, and it just does. It's that kind of again. I'll go back to the whole for league. That's where you're trying to learn kind of the long game. It's where you're learning about I'm now in turn 12. What do I do at this point, etc., etc. And when you're playing a game and you've got to say turn 7 and over half your team's in the dugout, you're like, oh, just go move it on to half time and then hopefully I can roll back a few knockouts. Orcs, on the other hand, you won't really get that problem. They'll be on the pitch. Granted, they may not be in the right position that you want them because as I say, you're going up for 3 and then moving a maximum of 2, depending on the position. But at least you've got them there, and at least you can start working them out. They do come with a nice array of built-in skills. So again, the blitzers all come with block. That's 4 of them. Strength 3, movement 6, armor 10. So they're pretty tanky. I like them. Equally, your big and blockers. Again, strength 4. You've got 4 of them, armor 10. Okay. They then give you that good understanding of okay, what do you do? They're effectively, your front line. That's what you use them for. They're just there. And that's where you start to learn these positions. Orc linemen, they're just cannon fodder. You can stick them up against anything. It doesn't really matter. Tree man, whatever, doesn't care. It will get knocked down, and they might get lucky and get you knocked out. But again, armor 10. The thrower is weird. It's an armor 9, but it's slower. It's the same speed as a big and blocker. Now, I don't know any other positionals where the armor is lighter, but they're slower than other positionals. Usually, if your armor's light, you've got an extra speed, or you've got an extra strength, or something like that. So
yeah, I guess you're paying for the passing stat improvement, aren't you? And those passing skills, because
Yeah.
like in a sevens team, that thrower would be you. I think you would be silly not to take a positional with sure hands in sevens for the free reroll.
Yeah.
Like I'm almost looking at it and thinking, yeah, it's quite cheap. Like I can see why they've had to kind of nerf it somewhere, or it would probably maybe it would be too expensive. I'm now going to have a little look actually at the Skaven thrower.
He's got pass and sure hands, but he's edge 3 as well.
So the Skaven thrower is
Pass is 2, but he's edge 3 to pick up.
So cost wise, an extra 20k on top. And the passing stat is much better, but the armor is the same. So compared to the lineman, they're exactly the same as the lineman. Passing stat improves by 2, gains the 2 skills. For the orcs, passing stat improves by 1, and they drop the armor and gain the 2 skills, but then they bring the cost down. So again, like somewhere there's a matrix at GW about how they kind of calculate these things. But I do get what you mean. It is odd that also your thrower, who, if you are going to make the most of doing a pass, is the only player on the team with animosity to all other teammates, whereas other players have a more selective animosity.
And equally, that's a good point. So this is for anyone who's going up against orcs, okay? Because I've played against a couple of orc teams, and the animosity, and it's not on purpose. I think it's potentially the fact that people just forget about it because it's a rarity that you actually pass with an orc team. You basically have one position that picks up the ball, and again, I've actually played the game where I've had no thrower and just used one of my blitzers because you're picking up on the same thing, just not as many. Just don't have sure hands. Just remember that team's got animosity. So if you see them doing a handoff or trying to do a pass, just remember who are they passing from and to, because that's sometimes I've seen that a couple of times where people have forgotten that.
Yeah, it's so you can sometimes forget how much you need to remember about your opponent's team, as well as how much you need to know about your own. And yeah, remembering animosity in particular is a kind of key one. Like remembering that your opponent team has it. Exactly the same. Like the amount of times that I will maybe forget a bonehead or we've all forgotten a foul appearance at some point. So it's remembering what your opponent's got. It's key.
The final thing I want to say is you can have a little bit of variety on it. So you can, if you want, take an untrained troll and some goblins, just have a little bit of throw around on that side of things as well. So that's always good fun as well.
They do mirror the human team nicely. Very much the kind of punchy human, because in the human team you can have the ogre and the halflings in the same way. You can take more goblins than you can halflings.
Yeah.
You don't have the throwers as the catchers, that you have in the human team, but you've got 4 big and bloggers, 4 strength 4 guys there as well. So yeah, they're such an odd one. And when I decided that these were the 3 teams we were going to do, they are 3 vastly different teams with different offerings that I like and don't like for very different reasons. Like, I try and kind of pick themes here, but if we had done humans, Skaven, if we'd done humans, Skaven, Orcs, we're looking at 3 teams with very similar skill setups and roster setups. If we were looking at a bit like when we looked at Nurgle, Khorne, and Chaos, 3 very similar style teams, and it kind of comes down to the nitty-gritty. it's quite interesting to look at 3 vastly different ones
Hmm.
and then see where that lays your priorities, because I don't think any of these. I reckon if you ask me to put these 3 in a League Friendly Stomp order tomorrow, I'll give you a different lineup. Or if I think it could be wildly different. Well. I mean, I've got them written down here, and we did all go for something pretty different in the end. But the main question is, what do you, the listener at home, think? Did you put them in a wildly different order? Do you think that the teams fundamentally are so different that you can't compare the 3? If you've got any thoughts or feelings about how we have chosen these teams and where we have put them, then Mr. Scott Bryant, how can people get in touch?
If people want to get in touch and tell us what their order of choice would be between these 3 teams, if they're a tabletop player or if they're a Blood Bowl 3 player who obviously doesn't have access to vampires yet, drop us a note. Usual place to get hold of us, that's New Dice Please, all one word, all lowercase, newdiceplease@gmail.com. And if you want to talk about anomalies, risk mitigation, all that exciting stuff, or general anything about how to avoid rolling dice and playing Blood Bowl, Mr. Tom Hovell, how can people see more, hear more, and indulge their passion for all things stompy?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you do like what you're hearing at the moment and seeing, you can get in touch with us through Instagram or Blue Sky at New Dice Please. You can also watch us at on YouTube, both at New Dice Please and also at Blood Bowl Live, where we also show some of our games.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bryant. Thank you very much, Mr. Hovell. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We have been New Dice Please, and we will see you next time.